Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into a topic I know you guys are really interested in, based on the sources you sent in. It's all about Elon Musk. But we're not just focusing on the usual stuff like Tesla and SpaceX. You guys sent in so much material that goes way beyond that, like his childhood, his first businesses, even some pretty controversial topics, and his relationship with Meta. It's all in here. So are you ready to really get to know this complicated guy beyond just the headlines?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about Musk is that his story isn't just about, reaching those goals that seem impossible. It's about that drive that gets you there, that relentless energy. And I think the decisions he made early on really set the stage for everything that came after.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning then. He was born in South Africa, loved computers from a young age, pretty typical for a tech innovator, right? But then he moves to the US and get this, drops out of Stanford after only 2 days. 2 days. I mean, can you imagine? What does that tell you about him, even back then?
I think it shows he was willing to take huge risks right from the start. Most people wouldn't even think about leaving Stanford, let alone after like 48 hours. But he obviously had a vision, and he wasn't afraid to go for it, even if it meant betting on himself. And that risk-taking, that's something you see again and again throughout his career.
And those risks, those early bets, they paid off big time, didn't they? First with Zip2, that online city guide. It wasn't exactly Google, but it got bought for over $300 million. Then comes PayPal, which basically changed how we pay for things online. eBay bought that one for, I get this, $1.5 billion. But it wasn't just about the money with those early wins, was it?
Exactly. I think those successes gave him something more than just money. It was like validation,
Mhm.
proof that his ideas could disrupt entire industries. And it seems like each success just made him more ambitious for the next, even bigger thing.
And from online payments, he sets his sights on, well, space. Your sources talk about how he founded SpaceX in 2002 with this goal of colonizing Mars, which just sounds crazy, right? But it wasn't just about reaching Mars, it was about making space travel cheaper so anyone could do it. And the key to that was reusable rockets, wasn't it?
Absolutely. One of the articles you sent talked about how SpaceX, focusing on reusable rockets, really brought down the cost of space travel. For a long time, people thought space was only for governments, but SpaceX challenged that. Now, private companies, even individuals, can get involved in space exploration, which is incredible.
It's mind-blowing how he was doing all this with SpaceX, while at the same time completely changing how we get around here on Earth with Tesla. And it wasn't just about building electric cars, it was about making them cool, high-performance, stylish. Remember those early Tesla Roadsters?
Yeah, one of the things your articles pointed out was how Tesla's focus on battery technology forced the other car companies to catch up. That's really how they changed the game. They didn't just build electric cars. They pushed the limits of what electric cars could be.
It's like he was thinking 10 steps ahead while everyone else was stuck on step one. But hold on, because it doesn't stop there. He's also got Solar City, trying to bring clean energy to everyone, merging it with Tesla. Then there's the Hyperloop idea, a super fast transportation system, and Neuralink, which is all about connecting our brains to computers. Was there anything this guy wasn't interested in?
Yeah, it is a lot, right? But I think what ties all these ventures together is that he's trying to solve these huge, really ambitious problems. He seems to be drawn to those challenges that could really change things for humanity. And he's always pushing the limits of technology along the way.
Yeah, it's like he sees the biggest problems in the world and just says, okay, I got this. But of course, it hasn't all been easy for him. The sources also mention a lot of struggles he's faced, like financial problems early on, personal issues, even health concerns. And then there's all the public scrutiny, the legal battles. He's constantly dealing with something.
And that's what makes his story even more interesting, I think. It's not just about the wins, it's about how he handles those tough times. One of the articles you shared talked about his resilience, his ability to learn from mistakes and keep going. That seems to be a key trait for a lot of successful entrepreneurs, especially those who are doing something totally new.
Okay, so I think it's time to talk about the big one, right? The Twitter takeover. Back in 2022, he buys Twitter and almost immediately starts making huge changes, mass layoffs, a whole new approach to content moderation. The sources really go in depth on this with tons of different opinions. Some people say he's a champion for free speech. Others are worried about misinformation spreading even more. What was the most interesting argument you came across in all the stuff you read?
It was interesting to see how this whole thing really brought to light that debate about what social media platforms are supposed to do, their role in society. One source, is a report from a think tank, argued that what Musk was doing, even if he meant well, It could actually end up amplifying harmful content, creating these echo chambers where people only hear what they already agree with. They raise some important questions about how we can protect people from harmful content without limiting free speech.
It's a tough issue, that's for sure. And speaking of complicated relationships, let's talk about Musk and Meta. This whole thing started with him offering to help create that decentralized platform called X. Can you explain what a decentralized platform is exactly? I'm not sure everyone listening is familiar with that term.
Sure, so basically it's about distributing control and ownership instead of having everything under one company, like Meta or Twitter. It's kind of like the difference between a traditional bank and a blockchain network, if that makes sense. The sources you sent suggest that Musk saw this as a way to deal with concerns about censorship and data privacy, things like that. But that partnership, it didn't last long. He publicly backed out and has been pretty critical of Meta ever since, especially about their content moderation and Zuckerberg's leadership. That's interesting. So we've got Musk, who's all about free speech on Twitter.
Gotcha.
And then he's criticizing Meta for how they moderate content. There's definitely some tension there. What's your take on that? It does seem a bit contradictory at first, I'll admit. But if you look deeper, one of your sources, it was a blog post by a tech journalist, it suggests that what Musk's really against is that he thinks Meta's approach is stifling real conversation and favoring certain viewpoints. It's not that he's against content moderation altogether, it's that he wants a different approach, one that he thinks is more transparent and less biased.
So it's not as simple as being for or against content moderation. It's more about different ideas on how to manage content on these massive online platforms. And let's not forget about the personalities involved here. Musk and Zuckerberg, they're both incredibly influential with strong opinions and leadership styles. It's like a real-life clash of the titans. But what does all this mean for us, the people actually using these platforms?
That's the big question, right? One of the sources you shared, a study on digital ethics, talked about how these power struggles within the tech industry actually affect us a lot.
Yeah.
How we communicate, how we get information, even how we interact with the world around us. So it's important for us to be aware of what's going on and to think critically about the technology we're using. We're not just passive users. We can actually help shape the digital landscape.
Okay, so taking a step back, it's clear that Musk's story is incredibly complicated. He's been called a visionary, a modern-day Thomas Edison, but he's also been criticized for being reckless, for his ego, and for some of the things he's said. It's a lot to think about.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating, right? Elon Musk is more than just a CEO, more than a billionaire. He's become a cultural icon, a symbol of our time, in a way. One of your sources, a biography about him, argued that he embodies both the amazing potential and the possible dangers of technological progress.
He definitely inspires strong reactions, both positive and negative. But putting aside all the hype and controversy, what has he actually accomplished? What's the real impact of his work?
I mean, with SpaceX, they've really changed how we think about space exploration. They've shown that private companies can launch rockets, do space missions, even compete with government agencies. One of the journals you shared called it a paradigm shift, like something totally new in the industry. It's opened up possibilities that people wouldn't have even dreamed of before.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then with Tesla, they've made electric cars mainstream, haven't they? I remember when electric cars were seen as like weird and not very practical. But now they're cool, they perform well, and you see them everywhere. Even the charging infrastructure, that supercharger network, your sources mentioned how that helped people get over that fear of running out of battery, you know?
Exactly. They didn't just focus on the cars themselves. They thought about the whole experience.
It's funny how those two ventures, SpaceX and Tesla, they seem so different. But they're both connected by this idea of sustainability, aren't they? SpaceX wants to make humans a multiplanetary species, which is like a long-term plan for our survival. And Tesla's all about reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, fighting climate change.
It's like he's thinking way ahead, not just about today, but about future generations. One of the blogs you sent even suggested that what he's doing now could lead to humans becoming a true spacefaring civilization, which is kind of wild to think about.
Definitely makes you think. But it all comes back to this question of legacy, doesn't it? How will people remember Elon Musk? As a visionary who pushed humanity forward, or as a reckless disruptor who maybe did more harm than good? It's hard to say right now.
Yeah, I don't think we can really know for sure yet. He's still doing so much, his story isn't over. But one thing's for certain, he's had a massive impact, no matter what you think of him. He's challenged the way we do things, made people debate, pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
He's almost like a mirror, isn't he? People see in him what they want to see, whether it's a hero, a villain, or something in between.
Yeah, he's a reflection of how complex our world is. He reminds us that progress isn't always straightforward. that innovation often comes with challenges and sometimes unintended consequences.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk. I hope you've learned some new things, gained some fresh perspectives on this complicated and fascinating guy. What was the most interesting thing you learned from all these sources? What really made you think about Elon Musk and his impact on the world?
I think for me, it's realizing that he's not just building companies, he's trying to build a future. You might agree with him, you might not, but there's no denying his vision is changing entire industries and making us rethink what's actually possible.
That's a great point. Elon Musk's story is a reminder that the future isn't just something that happens to us. It's something we create, and it's being shaped right now by people with bold ideas and the drive to make them happen. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep forming your own opinions. Until next time.